Welcome to The Last Generation, the podcast where lived experience meets lasting change. I'm your host, Donna Simmons, author of Ashes to Flame, Transforming Trauma into Purpose, also a survivor, advocate, and truth teller. Today's episode dives into the heart of a topic that's quietly shaping lives all around us: complex post-traumatic stress disorder. If you've ever felt like your wounds go deeper than one moment, or like your pain has no clear origin, this episode is for you. We'll explore how complex PTSD shows up in the everyday lives of survivors, how it differs from shock trauma, and how trauma can lead to repetition compulsion, the unconscious pull to recreate the past in toxic ways. We'll also weave in powerful insights from Lawrence Heller's The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma, and share real survivor stories to ground this theory in lived experience. So what is complex PTSD? Complex PTSD is not just about what happened to you. It's about what kept happening. It often results from long-term relational trauma. This could take the form of neglect, abandonment, or abuse, especially during childhood. In his book, The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma, Lawrence Heller explains that trauma isn't just an external event. It's what happens inside of us in the absence of safety, attunement, and connection. Complex PTSD often manifests in three interconnected ways. The first is emotional dysregulation, and this is when we have big or intense feelings that are hard for us to control. The second is a negative self-concept where we feel broken, unworthy, or ashamed. And the third has to do with relational difficulties, where we struggle in relationships with trust, boundaries, or intimacy. But Heller reminds us that these patterns are adaptations to environments that didn't support the full expression of who we were. They are intelligent survival strategies until they're not. Let's talk about now the difference between complex PTSD and shock PTSD. Shock PTSD typically follows a single traumatic event like a car crash or an assault. Shock PTSD can show up as flashbacks, nightmares, and hypervigilance as well. But C-PTSD, on the other hand, arises from chronic trauma, often in childhood, and its symptoms are slower, deeper, and more relational. Where shock PTSD might scream, complex PTSD whispers, "I don't belong. I'm not enough. If I get close to people, I'll get hurt." And because the trauma is relational, the healing must be too. Now, let me tell you about a lady named Sarah. She's a 33-year-old woman who spent most of her life feeling like she had to earn love. She grew up with a mother who emotionally checked out and a father who only noticed her when she excelled. Sarah became the perfect child. She was earning straight A's. She didn't indicate any of her needs or express any of her problems. But then as an adult, that perfectionism started turning to anxiety, and she struggled to form lasting relationships because she was keeping people at an arm's length, afraid that they would see the shame she was carrying inside. Now, in therapy, Sarah realized that her symptoms weren't personality flaws. They were the residue of trauma that never had the chance to be healed. Bit by bit, she did begin to soften, to trust, to reconnect with the parts of herself that she had hidden away. But first, she had to unravel that repetitive cycle that she kept finding herself in. Now let's talk about one of the most painful and unconscious symptoms of complex PTSD: repetition compulsion. Repetition compulsion is the tendency to repeat familiar pain, to choose toxic relationships, unsafe environments, or hurtful patterns, not because we want to suffer, but because some part of us is trying to solve the original wound. And here's Eli's story. Eli is 38, and for years he found himself in one emotionally abusive relationship right after the other. He was drawn to partners who criticized him, ignored his needs, or pulled away when he reached out for connection. And he told himself, I just have bad luck in love. But deep down, it wasn't luck. It was a pattern. Now, Eli was raised by a narcissistic mother and an emotionally absent father. And so he learned that love was conditional. He learned that his worth depended on keeping others happy, even at his own expense.
Hi, I'm Mariel Hemingway, granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, actress and lifelong advocate for mental health and healing. Do you ever wonder how someone can rise from unimaginable trauma and turn it into a life of purpose? Do you find yourself searching for stories of resilience, proof that transformation is possible even in the face of overwhelming darkness? Then you need to read Donna Simmons' powerful memoir, Ashes to Flame. This book is not just a story, it's a raw, unfiltered journey through the depths of childhood trauma, emotional and physical abuse, and the systemic failures that perpetuate cycles of harm. Pick up Ashes to Flame today. You will not regret it.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Eli did ultimately uncover this painful truth. He wasn't chasing love. He was chasing resolution, trying to rewrite the story, hoping that this time it would end differently. But healing doesn't come from re-entering the fire. It comes from walking away from it. As Lawrence Heller says, we repeat the patterns of early trauma not because we are broken, but because the nervous system seeks coherence. Our symptoms are the body's way of remembering and attempting to resolve the past. Now, in my own life, I have experienced this as well. Before I met my current husband, I found myself in relationships with emotionally vacant men who I knew were lying to me and attempting to manipulate me. These guys were total players, and I knew this, but I couldn't stop myself. I stayed in these patterns, hyperfixated on winning their approval. I was so fixated on being chosen by them instead of choosing myself. And it was like I was watching myself in a movie and wanting to scream, "What are you doing to yourself? Wake up!" But I couldn't. Not until I realized through therapy and a heck of a lot of self-reflection that I was operating in a compulsive mode to change the narrative of my past, to rewrite the script from where my parents did not choose me to protect nor to love. I was caught in a spiral of needing to be chosen to be able to change someone else to choose me in order to prove my lovability. And realizing this began to slowly set me free. Recognizing the pattern is the first step. Choosing something new is the act of revolution. So how do we begin to heal? Heller's neuroaffective relational model, also known as NARM, focuses on restoring connection to the body, to the present moment, and to our core self. Healing C-PTSD isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about discovering what's always been there, the part of us that still longs for connection, meaning, and love. Now, key elements of healing include present time awareness, where we begin noticing how past strategies are showing up today. And compassion over blame, where we begin seeing our symptoms as survival responses. Healthy relationships where we feel seen, respected, and safe. And trauma-informed therapy, such as the neuroaffective relational model, EMDR, or somatic experiencing. Healing takes time, but time isn't the healer. Connection is. Complex PTSD doesn't mean you're broken. It means you survived. It means your nervous system adapted to a world that wasn't safe. But now you get to build a new world, a life where your needs matter, where your voice is heard, and where your past no longer writes your future. Purpose isn't about forgetting the trauma. It's about alchemizing it, turning pain into empathy, isolation into community, silence into story. And if you're listening to this, you are part of the last generation, the one that says, this ends with me. You're not just healing yourself. You're breaking cycles for those who come after you. If you would like to learn more about healing from complex PTSD and repetition compulsion, go to trauma2purpose.com and sign up for one of our virtual seminars. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll be diving deeper into relationships and how oftentimes getting close to a partner is both triggering of deep wounds we still need to heal and liberating from the chains of past traumas. As mentioned earlier, C-PTSD happened as a result of an unhealthy and painful relational experience. And it takes healthy relational experiences and connection to heal. Thank you for joining me today on The Last Generation. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe, leave a review, and help us spread the message that trauma is not the end. It's the beginning of transformation. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're not alone, and your healing matters to this world. You've been listening to The Last Generation, transforming trauma into purpose. For more resources, visit trauma2purpose.com. If this episode resonated with you, consider leaving a review and joining the community online. Subscribe, and let's transform together.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.